Greetings, comrades, and hello, everyone. I'm Quint866. Remember that Dirge Cerberus video I made? Well, here's why I finally continue it. Sorry, my camera's a little out of position here. Okay. Point is, I'm actually going to be continuing my review of Dirge of Cerberus. Why? Because I originally was not planning on continuing it despite I said I would in the last video. I should probably learn to stick to my promises. Anyways, the point is, this video is going to be a lot shorter than the first one because I covered mainly most of my complaints and the base game in the first video. So, without time to waste, let's haste. Before I continue the video, I want to say something regarding Vincent, our main character. He was in a relationship with a girl that was for some reason experimenting on him named Luceria. I don't know why or anything, but I recently emulated this game because I got impatient and I just wanted to figure out the rest of the game before I got my electronics back. So finally, after doing all of this, I have a great, if not a little mixed view on the plot. Luceria is kind of like the driving point, the princess at the head of the castle, or the supposed reason why Vincent wants his revenge so much. And for some reason, Luceria's memories are within another person. Who is that person, you ask? Shulk! Because why not? At least it gives me a reason to like Shulk's character, but her boss fight was still freaking stupid in difficulty. Nonetheless, Vincent doesn't find this out till very late in the game. Other than that, though, we got some other things happening, which I'll get into in the bosses themselves. Because I've covered most of the gameplay. Most of the bosses are pretty similar. You fight a Black Widow droid, you fight another Dragonfly, you fight an empowered soldier, a heavily armored soldier again, and none of them are too, well, interesting except for these last few. Anyways, that's the plot entirely for now. Let's get into the bosses themselves. For starters, we have our first fight against Azul, the Cerulean, who is, yes, immune to bullets. You have to blow up the barrels in order to get some decent damage on him, and it's not too bad of a fight, actually. What he is, though, is a pushover. I'm not even joking. I wanted more out of this guy. He's so big and hulky. Why not have him charge at us? I mean, he shoots bullets, yeah, and they hit like a tank. And his ground pound attack is a little tricky to avoid because it's telegraphed very poorly in my eyes. But at the very least, Azul has some, well, interesting attacks in his later fight. And he has a pretty new form that he uses. Like, the form that he uses in the second fight is a lot better. But in this fight, it's just waiting for him to get near a barrel and shooting the barrel. That is it. I mean, the footage here is giving Azul a lot of credit, saying he's not that difficult for me. But for someone who is in this footage, just hide behind the pillars. It's not that... it's not that hard to just get some cover, you know, behind the pillars. Anyways, Azul supposedly dies, and of course he's not dead, because we leave the body there, and he just falls, which will later be the end of us, because he revives on later. Finally, after a ton of boring missions, we can get to the next real boss fight against Rosso the Crimson. Okay, I'm starting to see where the developer went with these name puns. Thanks a lot, Square Enix. You're really creative. No, seriously though, I'm not being sarcastic. I do think that was kind of creative that they did this. Nonetheless, though, it just feels kind of lazy, but it's still creative enough that it's amusing. Anyways, we talked to Rosso a bit after her long monologue of her being a killing machine. Also, Rosso is a total bitch. Yes, I did just say that. Similar alert scene, she is an absolute sadistic tormentor. Oh my god. Okay, I'm ranting now, guys, but seriously. Finally, after all of that monologue, we finally get to fight Rosso once and for all. Because she stole the proto materia from us in Chapter 5. Let us begin the battle. So this fight starts off pretty typical. You got a foe that moves around relatively quickly and you shoot all the, boss's health away, and it's a pretty standard fight so far. Until you realize this girl is also Shulk on freaking steroids. Yes, I did just say that. Just like Shulk, Rosso the Crimson hits like a truck on steroids. It is not even funny, guys. Like, this boss fight not only tanks you with how much damage she can do, but look how minimal damage I'm doing to her. I mean, if the boss can move that fast and shoot that hard, doing that much damage, at least let me do the same, but nope, I have to grind in order to do that. What did I say about Shulk's boss fight again? Let me think. Then we finally fight Shulk herself in this boss fight. This freaking abomination of a boss fight. No. Okay, here is where I say this abomination of a boss fight. Yes, there is a difference between a hard boss and a bad boss, but the fact is now they gave Rosso the ability and speed and damage output of Shulk, not only with higher health and higher defense, but now they gave her a ranged attack. So, yes, even though the ranged attack barely hits you because it spreads too much, that doesn't excuse the fact that they basically made Shulk a bloodthirsty bitch who is now even harder than before. Yes, I did just say that. I take it back. Shulk is not the worst of the worst. Rosso is. Oh my god. And the worst part is, this fight has 2 phases. Are you kidding me? We're doing this again? And if you want to stand a good chance against this boss fight, unlike me, who fought at the minimum level because I was confident I could win, which I did do painstakingly. That's not to say it was easy though, because when I did come back after grinding, it was so much better for sure, but the grinding itself took months, no, years, no, eons! I'm not even joking, guys. Grinding in this game takes forever. Rosso also is pretty quick, so it's going to be hard to shoot her unless you have a very accurate weapon, which, yet again, requires more grinding for money. Yay! This boss fight, no joke, even though it didn't take me as many attempts as Shulk, I died at least 4 times on this fight. Which isn't that bad, but there was so many close calls where either I used a Phoenix down, a potion, a high potion, whatever. If I didn't use it, I'd be screwed. But I want to conserve those because I know Bloodburst Rosso is just so freaking hard. This fight is just terrible, guys. Like, there's no way for me to stress it enough. I hate this fight. This fight is worse than Shulk the Transparent. This fight is one of the worst fights I've ever played. I mean, it's not the worst fight in any video game ever, but it's one of the worst fights in the Square Enix history of games. Now, if only young Xehanort could hear that. But the worst part about this fight is that Rosso the Crimson has not only 2 phases, as shown by her health bar saying Rosso the Crimson and Bloodburst Rosso, but she has these boomerang-like projectiles that fly at you, and they are so difficult to move. And to make it worse, they hit really, really hard. Oh my god. Jeez! Did the developers not think this was overkill? And after all of that, was it worth it? Was it worth it making this hard of a boss fight built up to this stupid character? Of course not! They even make her death scene lame as hell. Rosso the Crimson is all like, "You're stronger than me, absurd," and then she actually gets all pissy about it, and believe it or not, because she doesn't want to, you know, lose her glory or whatever, she decides to, no joke, she pulls out one of the biggest middle fingers after me wanting to rip her to shreds. She does the unthinkable. she decides to kill herself. Like, seriously, come on! Isn't that a little overkill for Final Fantasy standards? Jeez. So she, destroys the floor under her, and she falls off the building. Lame.
Let the killing begin! There's nowhere to run!
Okay, sorry if I ranted about Rosa the Crimson, but now we can finally get back and finish off Azul once and for all. Azul this time does not need to be shot with or blown up with stupid barrels. This time we can finally shoot him and deal some decent damage. Thank the Lord! We're also on a moving elevator that's going down, so that's pretty cool. Also, similar to Vincent, he customized his weapon, and I like that. Instead of him just having the single explosive shot, now he has a machine gun, which is way better because it actually can hit me this time. Yeah, I'm not joking in that regard. His stupid one explosive shot, while it did massive damage, I could most of the time just easily dodge it. This time, however, he does do the ground pound move, which is still not too bad to dodge, just annoying to get the timing down. And Azul isn't too bad this time. I think this fight was a lot more fair. But all you need to do for this fight, for the most part, is hide behind the big pillar and just come around the other side and shoot him. But this guy decided to go on full-on tank, so props to whoever made this video. Or played the game in this video. You know what I mean. So we wreck Azul, and he's totally, disappointed about it. Nah, I'm just kidding. He's not going down without a fight. I mean, he said let the killing begin, so he naturally has to have something up his sleeve as he laughs off all the bullets we put in him. He says, "This is how a battle should be," and asks Vincent, despite the fact that Vincent is pretty dang, reluctant to see the fact that Azul knows Chaos is inside of him. Chaos is one of the, main villains of this game, alongside Omega and Weiss, which Weiss wants to awaken Omega by getting Chaos out of Vincent, which makes sense. However, Azul turns into his final phase, Arc Azul, which I gotta compliment the designers, because this thing looks cool as hell. No joke. This thing is pretty dang scary looking. Reminds me kind of like Bahamut. But of course, bullets will not hurt it. So what do you do when you don't have bullets at your side? Well, you can either fist him, which is a death wish and doesn't make any sense, or you can shoot him with magic. Of course, I chose the magic route, because that's just, easier for one. Because magic is ranged in this game. Thunder seems to do the most damage, but I prefer to go with the fire, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Nonetheless, we fight him, and he's pretty easy. You just gotta keep shooting fire and wait for him to get close, then do a quick dash or a jump, and then he won't hit you. Of course, so later in the fight, he will pull out some magic projectiles, which aren't too bad to avoid. But this fight's pretty dang tricky if you try to play with the fist, like this guy demonstrated here. Yeah, why would you punch the big, beefy monster thing? Use fire, dummy! You have the magic ray points around you. Yeah, you can actually recover your magic in this fight if you let him break those mini... I don't know what to call them exactly. Power cells, we'll just call them that. And then you stand on top of them, giving you some more magic. It's not really that bad of an idea. What is a bad idea? The fact of if, and this is just a big if you want to go for the fist method, this fight will literally take you forever. It will be the longest thing you've ever faced. No joke. This guy also decided to use Limit Break, which isn't a bad idea, but I don't know if he necessarily knew that this doesn't make you that much stronger. I mean, it gives you double damage, but that's not much of a help when the fist strategy, again, is not that good of an option. He still went through with it, though, so props to him. After wrecking Arc Azul, we get actually a pretty cool death scene where, even though we had just turned into chaos, okay, Arc Azul is revived. And here I was pretty scared, thinking how to fight another phase of this jackass. He rams into me, or fists me himself. Okay, I must have forgotten how this fight went. Azul tells us to get up and fight him again. Geez, you think 3 phases is a little overkill? Vincent gets up, and then for some reason, chaos awakens within him finally, and he takes out Azul's materia, letting him turn to Arc Azul. And from here on out, he can no longer turn to Arc Azul, just turning him back to the big burly blue Hulk. I'll let you watch this scene and let you determine if you think it's awesome or not. I think it's awesome at the very least.
It looks like you were more a beast than I. Very well. I'll see you again, Vincent. In hell.
So that is chaos. Intriguing. Soul wrought of terror corrupt. Perhaps I should simply let him live out his destiny of destruction.
We then finally get introduced, after that awesome frickin' death scene, to our last guy before Weiss himself, Nero the Sable. Right away, I gotta compliment his design. This guy looks fucking cool. I love his design, guys. Nero the Sable's amazing. Nero the Sable drops a phone or something where then, finally, Vincent finds out the truth of his past. Where he found out it was Lucera herself who implanted the Chaos Gene inside of him, making him partially evil. This actually really caught me off guard, since I thought it was Dr. Hojo, the guy that Lucera worked with and constantly blamed, because technically it was because of Hojo that Luceria, or I can't pronounce her name for the love of God, the girl that Vincent had the relationship with. For some reason, I thought it was Hojo that did the deed, but no, it was Luceria herself that infected Vincent. And it's not that bad, I guess, but it really hurts Vincent because he didn't want to believe the truth, considering he probably had the same thoughts as I did. He blamed Hojo. Hojo is manipulative. He's quite the villain, at least for the past, considering, well, he's dead for one, but oh my god, this guy is creepy as hell. Shadows in the face. It's just, oh my god, this guy's laugh, it haunts me to this date. This guy's more of a villain than Dr. Gates ever could have been in Mega Man X6. And yes, I did just say it. At least Gate looks cool, but this guy, he's not, I don't know. I think his design's meh, but at least his voice is more creepy than Gates, which gives him more points than Gates. He's not that much better, though. But oh my god, this guy is just creepy as hell. He's just, oh my god. Vincent eventually, after hearing this recording, is just completely blown away. He's affected. He's saying you'll open the door to darkness and find the truth.
No. This is no experiment. It's...
We finally, after a lengthy sequence of missions, get to fight Nero. And Nero, let me tell you guys, this I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to fighting this guy. His fight, I was just so pumped for. However, Nero informs us of his brother, who is Weiss, oddly enough. He says he's the only person who ever loved me and the only person he will ever love. And this is confusing because we think of Weiss as kind of a madman, and seeing Nero say he's caring is kind of a weird way to see it from the villain's perspective. However, my biggest complaint with the story comes here. He implies that Weiss is dead, but my problem I have here is, why would they still be fighting if Weiss is already dead, calling him by his name, and also saying, "Hail Weiss," like he's still alive? I don't understand that. Vincent questions what he did with the kidnapped Shulk, which happened on the airship level before this. Nero, of course, kind of taunts us, saying he ran into her, yeah, feisty, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I won't do that again. Point is, Nero is kind of taunting us, saying, yeah, he's in captivity. And then, finally, Vincent decides to step it up, draws his gun, and will fight Nero himself. Nero, of course, naturally is like, let us dance with death. And we finally get to fight this awesome boss fight. Look at him, he has 4 guns! However, when I finally got to this fight and realized what you had to do, despite his damage output is really high, I was really disappointed by this fight, guys. Like, it is not the worst fight in the game. Hell, it's one of the better ones. But, in that regard, I feel like Nero's fight was a little too simple. You just keep moving sideways, strafe in circles, shoot him a bunch, survive the war of attrition. It's not a bad fight, but it is still not as what I wanted it to be. I want it to be harder, in fact. It was a really good idea, and it just saddens me to see that, well, Nero is kind of too easy. He's not hard or easy. He's the right balance, for sure, but I want him to be harder than he is, and that's just disappointing. He has some tricky to avoid attacks, but if you just strafe in circles, you're golden. This fight becomes a pushover if you just strafe in circles. Yeah, just like I did in Mega Man Legends. Yeah, in Mega Man Juno's fight, strafing in circles, the game. Nero also doesn't do that much damage, but he can hit you in rapid succession, which is alright, I guess. The only problem, other than Nero being a little disappointing with his difficulty, is that I wanted him to have some more attacks. He has a few attacks, but most of them just consist around flying, shooting, doing a spin attack, and cloning himself. That is it. And it's so disappointing. It's not bad. It's one of the better fights in the game, but still, there should have been more here. Way more. Okay, anyways. Finally, we defeat Nero, or so we think. And Nero does have a second fight, which I won't get into because it's not much better in my eyes. But, whatevs. So after shooting Nero a bunch, after, trying to keep up, survive the war of attrition, we finally win. After beating across a ton of games, we come across a hologram of someone familiar. It's Hojo, believe it or not. He becomes quite confident, telling us we've been through quite a journey. We obviously say, we've heard enough, we try to shoot him, and then we get a neat little twist here. When Vincent tries to shoot the hologram of Hojo, or as I call it, the Remnant, it is revealed that Hojo is Weiss. This is not a joke either, because Hojo and Weiss are basically one. Even though Weiss is a different person, Hojo possessed his body, making him basically Weiss. And this fight was pretty dang cool too. I love the way Weiss looks. He has the coolest weapon for sure. I may prefer Nero as a design for his body, but Weiss's weapon is by far the coolest freaking thing ever. It's a gun sword, very similar to Leon now that I think about it, or Squall, or whatever the Japanese name is. The Hojo Weiss hybrid easily blocks Vincent's first bullet, and, of course, goes back to, well, reviving Omega. Because once they revive Omega and fuse with Vincent, also known as Chaos, they can basically control the world, making their world destruction plan and all of the inhabitants of the world possible. Of course, though, Vincent is not going to let it happen so easily, as he stops Hojo Weiss again, ready for one last battle. This right here, guys, is the final battle. Vincent is all ready to wreck this guy, and Hojo Weiss hybrid is all like, "Oh, are we so ready? Then let's see what power you have." As he draws these blades very similar to Leon or Squall's blades that have little guns on them. I found it really cool. The Hojo Weiss hybrid takes Vincent on, and we finally get to fight an awesome battle. Or we could just do the typical forced loss battle. That works too. Of course, this is the one battle where you're forced to lose. At first, Vincent tries to turn into Chaos and wreck Hojo Weiss. Of course, Hojo Weiss saw this one coming and he's all like, "You already tried that." And much to his surprise, this is where kind of a moving scene comes. After all of the crap this one character put me through, Shulk finally does something actually decent in this story. Which actually makes her kind of okay. She's not the worst character now that I think about it. I think I was being a bit harsh on her character. Shulk then reveals that Luceria, the girlfriend, similar to Hojo and Weiss, she has data of Luceria within her. Meaning she can project Luceria like how Weiss can project Hojo. This is really interesting because I didn't see this one coming despite they very vaguely hinted this. Shulk / Luceria tells him you cannot beat Weiss by simply trying to, overpower him. She tells him that Chaos is trying to control you and you should be trying to control Chaos, which makes sense. I wonder why Vincent didn't think about this. Hojo isn't too fazed by the fact that his co-worker, for some reason, actually has a friend. Hojo seems really unfazed by this, and this caught me off guard considering it shows how heartless he is, that he didn't even want his co-worker to have anyone she could relate to. He, of course, sends away the projection, and finally, after the motivational speech she was giving to Vincent, Vincent finally decides to stand up to Hojo Weiss. And it is finally time to finally put an end, to put down this jerk for good. Now it is finally time for us to clash against Hojo Weiss once again. This time with proper motivation, proper preparation, proper weapons, and most importantly, a proper motive. We finally can fight Weiss and Hojo and end both of them right here, right now. Vincent stands up at long last, and it's time to end it. Once and for all. This right here is the most difficult boss in the entire game. Unlike Rosso and Shulk, this fight is actually pretty fair. It's still got its moments of bullshit for sure, but it's a lot more better than Shulk and Rosso combined. Anyways, without further ado, let's finish off Weiss.
The power of Omega.
This fight is by far the best fight in one of any of Square Enix's video games ever made. I love every second of it. This is the hardest fight for sure, but just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. I love it. This fight is so cool. The music is amazing. The attack patterns are fair and hard to avoid, and it's just so much fun to fight the hardest enemy in the game. This is definitely what should have been Shulk and Rosso's fight. It would have made Shulk and Rosso better as characters, and it would have made their fights better in terms of gameplay. But I'm saying it right now, guys. This is one of Square's best fights. Not just all the Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, Sephiroth, Cloud crap I'm hearing. I think this gets my vote for one of the best fights Square Enix has ever made. It's just so cool, it's fair, it's hard, and most importantly, it's a battle of equals. This fight is a rules-free deathmatch, where everything you do is out on the field, your skill is put to the test, and most importantly, you're doing it for the fate and hope of all. I'm Quint866. Have a good one.